night guide. Chair's too stiff.
Is it?
Make it looser.
Can't adjust it.
No, but I never can.
The mayor kept me from like backing up over the edge here with my chair.
Yeah,
I kept getting closer and
I
closer.
basically saved her life.
Well, that would have been fun.
That would have been interesting.
I don't know if it'd have been
Probably
fun.
would have woke me up after he quit laughing.
Okay, we got. Okay, we'll get started with our meeting for our West Haven meeting. My name's Mayor Rob Vanderwood, and I will call this meeting to order. Today is our council meeting. It's Wednesday, November 1st. It's 6:03 p.m., and we're anxious to get going with our overall agenda that we got set up for tonight. We've got a lot to cover, and we're looking forward to the discussion. We do have a few council members that may be able to get online. We've got one that we may be missing tonight, but we're glad to have them online as well. We'll get started with our opening ceremonies, our Pledge of Allegiance by our Council Member Dixon, and our prayer or moment of silence with Council Member Call.
Would you please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our dear Heavenly Father, we are grateful to be gathered this evening. We are grateful for our beautiful community and for the opportunity to serve and to make decisions. We pray that we may be attentive and prepared to discuss and come to some conclusions of the things that would be best for the residents and the community as a whole. Again, we're grateful for this opportunity to be together, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you very much, Councilmember Dixon and Councilmember Call. We move on to item number 3, our public presentation. Residents attending this meeting will be allocated or allotted 2 minutes to express a concern or ask a question about any issue that is not on the agenda. No action can or will be taken on any issue that is presented. Do we have anyone that would like to come up at this time? Okay, seeing done, we'll move on to item 4, upcoming events. We have our senior lunch bunch that will be moved back a little bit due to Thanksgiving, which will be November 29th, and that will be at 11:30 a.m. We also have our Heart of the Holidays, November 27th. That will start at 6 o'clock, and we're looking forward to that. We've got lights up and more lights coming, and it's going to be a fun event. Lots of things happening. And then I believe it's tomorrow night that we have our Meet the Candidates night with that's with the Women's League of Voters. So looking forward to that as well. And I think that starts at, is it 6:30? 6:30 to 7. So is there any other upcoming events for the council?
I think it's 7:30, but we'll take 7 if we can do that.
It starts at 7?
Starts at 6:30 to 7:30.
Oh, I think I said that. 7?
And we
Well,
said
we'll-
yes.
We'll keep it as short as possible, but as much as we need information. That's great. Is there any other upcoming events? Okay, we'll move on to item number 5 on here, our council updates. Do you have any updates from the council? Okay, haven't seen none on there. We'll move to item 6, action on our consent agenda. Item A is for our city council minutes for our meeting held on October 8th. Is it 18th? Yeah, 18th of this month. And item B is Staker Parsons for $456,421.82. That's for completion, some funding for our 3300 South project. And that should do it for our consent agenda. Is there any concerns or issues with from the council on our consent agenda?
Emily, I would just like to add on our agenda item number 10. It says that I asked about parking. That was specifically handicapped parking. If we could add that.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if there was anything else on here. I think that was it. Anything else? Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda for A and B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council? We'll do a roll call on that. Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
and Councilmember Morse. You with us, Councilmember Morse? Okay, motion carries with the motions that we have. We'll move on to the next item on here is item 7. It's our public hearing for the purpose of receiving public input on an amendment to the flood damage and prevention ordinance. Do we have some information on that?
Yes, so basically FEMA issued letters to all the cities regarding that we needed to make amendments to our flood damage and prevention ordinance so that in case of a flood, we would be able to apply and receive FEMA funding. And if we do not have this done by November 30th, then we will not receive any. And so the current Chapter 154, we're asking to have it repealed and replaced. They sent over, the state has helped us with this. They sent over the model ordinance that FEMA has sent out. As you can tell, it's 24 pages long. Ed went through and took the model ordinance and made the technical changes to it. Then I got the fun of going through and making sure that because the fun of the model ordinance is that there were incomplete sentences and there's just some interesting things in there that just needed to be cleaned up. But between Ed and I think we've got a good document and Ed sent it off to the state. Did they ever respond to you? They did, didn't they? That they said that your changes that you made were good, right?
Correct, and then you found there was one section, I guess that was missing out of the ordinance, out of the model ordinance that you modified. That was really the only issue.
But so we've checked with the state also, make sure that we're where we need to be.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions from the council on that? Everything looked really good when I read through. If there's no questions, I'm ready for a motion. I'm sorry, we need to go through our public hearing.
Yeah.
So let's go into our public hearing on that. First of all, we need a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public input on the amendment to the flood damage and prevention ordinance. And I need a motion to go into the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have our public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to come forward at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward with that. Go ahead. I hear someone.
I think it was Nina's microphone.
Okay. We'll move on to item 8, action on public hearing to adoption of the ordinance 22-2023, an amendment to the flood damage and prevention ordinance. We'll need to move from our public meeting into our regular session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move into that. Thank you very much. And if there's no other questions on it, I'm ready for a motion on that.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council on this? Do we need to do a roll call on this one? We'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
and Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries on that. Thank you very much for that, and thanks for your work on that, Ed. We appreciate that very much. All right, we'll move on to our next item on here is a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public input on an amendment to the nuisance abatement ordinance. And Do we have some information on that particular one?
Yes, Dan came to Emily and I about the possibility of making some changes to our abatement ordinance so that we can, and our nuisance ordinance, I should say, so that we can make it easier to enforce it and to be able to do cleanup. Dan, would you like to kind of talk through some of the issues that you've had as to why we're asking for the change?
Absolutely. Good evening. In the nuisance ordinance, in the enforcement side, after a citation has been written and is non-compliant, the ordinance just said employ all necessary assistance to cause objectionable objects and conditions to be removed and destroyed. But that doesn't really give us the plan, meaning how do we legally obtain a warrant to go onto somebody's property? We just can't go on it. We have to have justification. So we went in and we looked at the ordinance. I did some research on what other cities are doing and I have before you an outline of the process we'd like proposed to amend on this ordinance that would help us with that. It's in two parts. One would be on notices given on a calendar basis. The ordinance already says one notice shall be given, one notice a calendar year shall be given on nuisances. And we have properties that are violating that several times a year. So I wanted to put a cost associated with a second and third or fourth nuisance. So you see that in the packet. And then when it comes to non-compliance through first the notice of violation, the NOV, and then second, as it's proposed, a last attempt notification and a citation. Then after non-compliance through that process, that we would go to the process of doing an administrative order, which would come through the mayor, or administrative warrant, which would come through Roy Court. And that would give us the ability to legally go on to a person's property to abate the nuisance as has been outlined. And if we adopt that, obviously, then we go on to make an adjustment to the administrative ordinance, which allows the mayor, the permission for the mayor to go ahead and sign that administrative order for the nuisance.
Dan researched Ogden City specifically because they've had a lot of success with being able to abate things in their city. And so a lot of this process is taken from their process, which is something that's been successful and worked.
Yeah, I like that you added the letters in here too for review, and some other things too was really helpful to
Correct.
look through here.
Sure.
Just as a recommendation on here, maybe we could look at on, let me reference it here at, I guess it would be the third page on our packet, but it would be item, is it 4D? On here where it begins only one notification. On that, when you get down to the red line in here, it does talk about, it has fine and fee in there as two different things in there. When you have the
Right.
first $100 as a fine, and then you have a fee. We could either list that as either a fine/fee or a fee/fine, however you want to do
It
that.
actually is two separate things, Mayor.
Okay.
In our proposal with the consolidated fee schedule, we're looking at including administrative fees to help us recoup some of the labor that's going to be put involved in obtaining the warrant. And because if we do that through the Royce process, then obviously we have to spend some time going to the Roy Courts, meeting with the judge and getting the judge's approval. So the fine would be whatever is part of the citation, and the fee would be an administrative fee that would be added to that.
Okay.
So there'd be both.
In here particularly, though, it does talk about the first and the second notifications in there. So each one of them would be of the same nature. So they either would be a fine/fine or fee.
And our fee, yeah.
So I don't know if that's something would be as a legal balance in there.
I mean, I think, one talks about the criminal and kind of what the other one's the administrative, civil side. But we can we can look at fine tuning. Look at fine tuning that though.
Well, yeah, basically what it says though in here is just the second notification of offense shall be an automatic $100 fine. The third notification and offense shall be an automatic $250 fee.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I do see
Fourth
now.
is a fine.
And then
It
you're
needs
back to fine
to be
again.
fine, I
It's just
apologize.
trying to, yeah.
Oh,
Hope that
okay.
makes sense,
Yes,
Dan.
now,
I was
now
Oh,
trying,
now I
get
see
where
what you're
you're-
talking about,
Sorry,
sorry, I had
wasn't-
to spend so
So
much time on
it
that.
should be
It's just
fine
simple.
and fine, not fine and fee,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
I was
And
thinking of the
maybe that
other
would be, well, I mean, in contracts, it might be a good way to look at it as a fine/fee or fee/fine. I'm not sure.
Okay.
However you'd like to put that together, I think it just needs to be consistent is all.
And we certainly can change it to that. If we do have to give a citation, then the citation would include the cost of the citation and and the administrative fee to collect the citation. So we can change it to both.
Let's see, was there anything else from the council? Any other items?
I just wondered what the difference, that same paragraph we're talking about under the penalties.
Wait, which,
We were just talking about D,
okay,
the fine fee discussion. In the penalty section, number 6. Nope, number 2. There's too many numbers.
all right, so which section?
The
are
one
we
that says
in?
any person who owns or occupies under penalty. So A, B, C, D. I guess it's under D.
I-
2.
Is it under 60?
So are you looking at 90.99 penalty, or are you looking
Yes.
at?
Yes.
Okay.
90.99.
So which, then which
Am I looking at these one? A,
section?
B, C,
Could be 60.
D,
D2.
D2.
D, hold on. D2.
So in that, Dan, did you find where I'm talking about? It begins any person who owns or occupies
Yes.
that one. What's the difference in that and what we were just talking about?
So
It's
that's.
the same idea, so I'm just confused.
So a couple, right, I think this is where I think I was confused before about when we were trying to talk about this other. One is a fine, which has criminal implications to it, and one of them is the civil. So, and then of course you have Dan talking about the administrative, just the administrative fee.
Okay.
So if in the penalty section, we can have a penalty in the amount of, $100, then, which we do, I think, need to. You can, so this section in the penalty section is just the civil side of it, so it's $100 penalty, $200 penalty, $500 penalty. The $100, $250, and $500 fines has to do with if we're taking court action, like, criminal court action. So that's where so you can actually pursue these nuisances in 2 different tracks. You can do completely civil, and not have any sort of criminal penalties whatsoever, because right now under this under our penalty, it's a Class B misdemeanor. So there's up to it could be up to $1,000 fine and a 6-month possible jail sentence. However, we're setting our fines at, $100, $250, and $500. Or we can just go the civil route, which is we have the mayor sign a letter, or we go through and get the court to sign a civil letter saying, yeah, we have the authority to go in and abate, and you can have a $100, $200, or $500 fee attached to that, and just go civil, and there's no possibility of any sort of jail whatsoever.
So is there appeal rights with a civil penalty?
I believe that there's not the penalty, but I do believe that there is a appeal, provision in our, I was pretty sure that there was a,
It's at the bottom. It's
There
under.
was, yeah.
It's
know I read it.
D3. D. So I guess essentially, if you go the civil way and you're doing all this and it still doesn't get accomplished, then you come back over here and they're going to pay more fines.
Yeah.
If it has to go to court, so you've paid your 100, 500, whatever. Now you're back over to these fees.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
And though the ordinance covers not only just nuisance on property, but this ordinance also includes graffiti. So there's more into the ordinance than what we're discussing specifically about nuisances on property. So other areas would apply to that penalty phase also. Okay.
And something that I asked Dan to look into based upon a question that you had, Commissioner Call, was, sorry, Councilmember Call, was about whether or not our nuisance ordinance lines up with the state ordinance. You'd asked about that, yeah, I apologize.
And we are.
But-
It's not worded exactly the same, but we cover it within our own ordinance, everything that the state has. We have covered. As it applies to the city and not necessarily a metropolitan city like Salt Lake.
Okay. On the last attempt letter in this packet, just down where the city enacts land use regulations in that paragraph, just in the middle of that paragraph, it has a therefore that is misspelled as well, so if we can correct that.
We will get that fixed. We just wanted to make sure you could see these are the drafts that we'd like to use.
Yeah, that looks good, and I appreciate those. It helps to see those.
Let me ask one more question. Under the administrative notices, the 90.04, under B4,
B4, okay?
it talks to the city manager may adopt rules and procedures. Are we doing that? Or that's just something we already have, right? It says.
We don't really have that, and so that's,
if
I
we're-
actually went back and forth about I mean, I think that we probably need to have a will, but I was kind of, some of that personal property, how to dispose of it,
Well, if we put it here,
yeah,
don't,
we should,
we have it, we should have it. I guess that's what I'm
It's-
saying. If we
yes.
don't, then we scratch that, or we need to create them right away, I guess. So
well,
that makes
we
sense.
should, we've had issues in the past as to what to do with some stuff, like, currently we're in the possession of a dumpster that somebody abandoned, and we've been trying to get rid of it. I actually filed a criminal action to deal with it, and there's a warrant out, so, because we couldn't get them to respond. Dan tried to get him to respond, I tried to get him to respond, we talked to him and stuff, and so, yeah, working on, we will get, some procedures put together and, bring them back to to you guys to look at and see if you have any other suggestions. So if we could change that to will.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, if there's no other discussion, I'm ready for a motion. We
have
need
the
to go to public hearing again.
Yep.
Trying to move this along. Okay, let's go to public hearing on this. I need a motion to move from, into the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move into our public hearing side. Is there anyone that would like to speak about our abatement ordinance? Okay, seeing none, We'll move on to item 10 on here, action on public hearing, adoption of ordinance 23-2023, an amendment to the nuisance abatement ordinance. And I don't know if we have any more questions or concerns with that. If
We need
not,
to-
go into a
We need
motion.
to move out of public hearing.
Oh, we need to move out of public hearing. Thank you. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're out of the public hearing now and back into this. Any concerns or issues with the next item on here?
Do
Ready for-
you want us to make those changes and bring it back to the council? Or do you just want to
I think there was only 3 changes that I.
Wasn't too major.
No, I
Is that
think
okay?
find the will underneath the, the
And then
adopting rules and procedures? What was the other one?
misspelling in the last attempt letter.
in the
Oh,
therefore.
yeah. Except for that's not a part of the ordinance itself. That
Right.
was just,
An example.
Freebie. Okay.
So can we just approve it with the changes as corrected?
yeah, it's those 2 changes, yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, I move that we approve ordinance 23-2023, an amendment to the nuisance abatement ordinance with the corrections stated.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council on this ordinance? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this. Councilmember Dixon?
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab?
Aye.
Councilmember Call?
Aye.
Councilmember Morse? Okay, she's not on there anymore. Okay. Okay, motion carries. Very good. We'll move on to our next item on here. Item 11, discussion and possible action on grants. Thank you, Mr. Dan.
All right, you guys need to make some decisions.
All right, we're ready.
Like I said, you may want to just hold off on making the decision about what to do about the major one until next time. But just because I know that Councilmember Saunders wanted to talk about the community center and whether or not you should go for that, or I said that might be just one of those things to keep talking about and get what you want. Or, I mean, you're gonna have to have some more redesigning if you're gonna apply for the grant, though, with the community center. That's the only issue, and I don't think we have the time. Well, we might, depending on how quick you are in making decisions as to what it should look like, so you might wanna we kind of set the major one aside for right now, and let's just focus on the minors so that Sherry has something to go with, which is why we put it under discussion and possible action.
I really would like to move forward with the restrooms at the park. I think that's one that's really important with the West Haven Days and also the other park too as well with the, what is it called? Sports Park.
I agree with the restrooms. I also think our major grant should go towards Windsor Park and not a community center.
I agree that major grants should go towards Windsor Park too.
We've got a good start on that, and we've got some information coming to
Yes.
get that knocked out. So I think we could get you that information. I know we don't have Councilmember Saunders here, but, you know, that would be something I'd like to see happen too in the community. I don't know what any other thoughts are on that, but,
Do we have a cost estimate for that? I mean, how much above $200,000 would it be?
We should,
in
we're
process.
Brock and I are having that meeting with Joseph Wing, the designer for Windsor Park Master Plan. We're gonna be meeting with him on Monday. So, we should have a good idea, you know, that we can distribute to. I'm not exactly clear if he's going to have it or on Monday, or whether or not it's going to be, he wants to refine those numbers after talking to Brock and I on Monday, and it'll be quickly after that is, from what I understood from Joseph. I talked to him first thing this past Monday morning.
But couldn't you even start to put in whatever is awarded in the grant? If we can't complete the whole phase, you could still put in what we have applied for in one. Couldn't we do that?
We have to come up with an amount, and then we have to have
Right.
the plans for
Right,
it.
but if the guy's coming back and saying, this is what will cost to do phase one, that's what I mean.
So can you do it in phases? Can you ask for a grant in phases?
You can do it in phases. And then another thing too, because he'd mentioned some other things with Privital Park, but if you don't feel like you can get everything, even, I don't know what exactly he's thinking of phase one, but if you need restrooms, you could actually have one of your Parks and Rec grant be restrooms at Windsor Park or a family pavilion at Windsor Park. So you, in theory, could have your major grant and all 3 Parks and Recs grants still all be for Windsor Park.
Let's do it. I like it.
We need all those things.
Well, you really have to have restrooms. I mean, that's for positive, and I don't really, maybe that's part of his phase one. Maybe that's what he's already thinking of.
Yeah.
It could
And
be.
it's country out here, but not that country. We do need, need the walls out there. So, but yeah, I think that would be a good plan to get started on as well, if the council feels that way.
So there's a lot of things. So you have your restrooms. I'm assuming a playground would go as part of that. I don't know. Amy, did he mention anything at all what they're kind of talking about with phase one?
Unprepared.
The pavilion is there, the restrooms are there in the phase
Yeah.
one. The playground, I think, is over in phase 2, isn't it?
It's a, the big long, this big long one is phase one. There's bathrooms in this. Yeah, there's bathrooms in phase one. There's, play area in phase one. Yeah, phase 2 is up and is kind of, a possible,
Yeah, that's actually changed a little bit. So there was phase 1 that you're speaking of now was a split. So it had phase 1 and then 2 and then 3 was up by the 2550.
so this
And
is,
then we
this
had the
is all
one down
phase
below.
1. This is phase 2, and then either this is phase 2 and this is phase 3. This is phase 4 because they just don't know, they're still working out some drainage issue things up in this phase 4, but it's
That's down
this
the road.
big, long, big section where we just dumped all that dirt from the pond.
Yep.
So, and I have talked to Joseph about breaking out the costs into the different phases. So we will have those, we'll have them outlined so that, it'll be a lot easier to see this is what the, phases are gonna cost, or the estimated costs.
And if you've never used the land for a grant for Windsor, which I don't
No.
think you've ever done one, so they really specified that in training, you can actually use the ground as part of your match.
Oh,
Oh, awesome.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, it has
If
not,
it's never been used,
Nope.
so if it's going to be phases, you only want to use whatever you're doing in phase one, that ground, and leaving whatever for the other phases, so you can use that ground later on. But that's really a plus to be able to use that much of the, equity per se, to be able to use as your costs.
It was really helpful to go to the ramp training.
It is, don't you think?
Yeah,
I
it
think
was
they
very helpful.
explain
So
quite a bit.
that is
Mhm.
a strong one, and land's worth a lot, but the grant we're going to ask for is probably going to be pretty high on this particular one because we've got a lot of, I definitely probably be looking at $500,000 on that one, at least. So I think that'd be a good one to go for.
Yeah, I mean, we had talked about that community center last time. I do want to do that, but Windsor has sat for so long that I do think that is maybe where we should put it. I mean, I don't know if Ryan would change his mind. He would be the only one because everybody else agrees to do Windsor.
well, I think that
So-
the community center, you just need to keep working on it. I just think that you're still in the process of trying to figure out what exactly it is that you want. And right now, I just don't think you're gonna have enough time, before Sherry needs to write it, to figure out, what it is that you want. And, mean, it could be done, but you have Windsor sitting here that you've all talked so much about wanting to finish.
It's been a long time coming. I think that I would like to put our priority there as well.
Councilmember Morse, did you have some recommendations for grants?
Yeah, so I agree that we have to prioritize the community center. We've talked about that in the past, and I feel like the last time we discussed this, not at the last council meeting, but the time previously, that's the way the council was leaning, was towards the community center. So I'd like to see us prioritize that, and I'd like to see us use a major grant towards that. That's where I'm at.
Okay. All right. Well, we do have a few others, I guess, that want to look at that. I think the city, can put together some funding for that community center, but I also, like I've mentioned before, I think it would be a good idea to see where we land with our current community center when we get that one done over at Green Farms and some of the other projects that we got going. But I'd love to get started on a community center, but I just don't think the ramp grant is going to work out for us on that, because I don't want to build something just to meet the ramp grant for museums or sports. I think we've got some other things we can do with that and still add some of the benefit of that museum part of it with pictures and arts in there and make a really nice center. But that's what I would recommend, is we stick with Windsor Park on this one to see what we can get put together. What about other items on here? We've talked about the rodeo arena. Is there anything we want to do with that? We definitely want the restrooms done. Any thoughts on the rodeo arena, moving that, or is that something we need to wait on? Thoughts on that?
If we anticipate use at Prevodel Park soon, it probably would be necessary to have a pavilion there.
Isn't there an amphitheater at Prividel? And how much is being paid for by, there's money in the budget, I understand, from Ivory. Is that correct?
Money from what?
Ivory Homes.
From when they put money towards that.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. That's something that we would have to research.
Okay, I was just wondering because I think that I had heard that at one time, so.
I'm
Might
not
not be.
sure. I know there was the donation of the 2 acres,
Right.
but I don't know if there was funding for anything else. We'd have to look, I guess, into it and see.
I think there's an amphitheater down there, though, not a pavilion. Or is there both a pavilion and an amphitheater?
Well, that's the
They're
suggestion,
separate.
is doing both for Prevodel, is doing the amphitheater and the large pavilion. The amphitheater, Brock really, he said that there would, our contribution, a lot of work can be done by
Right.
us for prep and stuff, and so that would be a good contribution for us.
I think the amphitheater would be really cool down there. I think that's a great place for it. I think we could have a lot of uses for that.
And we're looking at 3 grants between parks, museums, and all of them. Or
No,
3 for each of those.
3 of each of those. So tentatively right now, we're looking at 7 grants.
Okay.
Is it 7 with the major one?
7 with a major. So 3 parks and recs, 3 arts and museums. Wonder if we talk about arts and museums and maybe hone in on that a little. That might be a little bit easier.
Okay.
Maybe then, because maybe until you meet Amy with Brock and that other gentleman you said and find out exactly what the costs are for Windsor, maybe it's hard to really tell yet what you're going to need for Windsor if we need to use some of those park grants for Windsor if we can't do it all in the first. I don't know. I don't know what he.
That might be the best thing, is that hold off on the major grant discussion until next meeting, and I'll have that cost estimate from Joseph Wing.
Because then you could kind of see what you're including in phase 1, and then if there's anything that can't be fit in phase 1 with that cost, then we could supplement them with one of the Parks and Recs. But I think the art grants are kind of more of a standalone grant. They're really not dependent on any other park you're going to be working on or what you want to do with that.
I noticed when they talked about rodeo arena or rodeo anything, they talked about that being arts
It's
and museums.
arts. Yes.
So I think that was kind of interesting to me, but that's an option, I guess, if you wanted to focus on an item, that the arena item would be a good item if you want to do that.
I was really surprised too. The first time I'd ever saw that was when we wrote for the rodeo for West Haven. I was really surprised, but yeah, it's considered an art.
Yeah, well, it should be.
It should be. Yeah.
So a new announcer stand and audio system would fall under the arts, is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
The AV wouldn't be included with that, though, would it?
Well,
I think it would. Because it's part of the project.
yeah, but the bleachers were actually underneath the other. They weren't part of the arts, so I don't know. I'm not sure on that. I would have to check into that and see if they would let you count the announcer stand as an art. Because like I say, with the expansion of the bleachers, they were one of the Parks and Recs.
Okay. Well, maybe that's something you can check and get back with us on.
Yeah.
That'd be helpful.
So the drone show, that was part of this as well, right?
That was part of the arts. And you know, one thing I found this year is if we call it the art festival, which we are, because that's its new name, because there was a couple that came up and they said, oh no, not this again. We hear this every single time. Well, this, if you decide to do the art festival, it's a new name. It's not like they'll be saying, oh no, not the evening of art. We gave them that last year. And the drone show seemed to be really great. I thought, I don't know that that's something you'd want to spend the money on again or not, but you know, anything with that fits in with the arts. And then the same with the concert, but they actually approved, I think there were 3 or 4 different cities that they gave money for their celebration concerts. And so I think that's when there's not a problem. And then again with the rodeo. So, but you can come up with something new too if you have other ideas.
I think that the drone show is kind of connected with the arts festival. Now, I think that the most comments I heard were about the drone show. So as we are looking at that, that might be part of what they're expecting with the arts festival.
Yeah. And we could always ask for more and see if we could get a longer drone show. That was the only concern we heard, is they wished it would have lasted longer. So, and maybe it didn't need to last longer. Maybe for that amount of money, it was plenty long enough.
Do we know how long it was actually?
So when he sent me the demo reel, it said 13 minutes, but I think that was actually from the time they lifted up until they landed back down. So it was probably closer to 12 by the time you actually saw all of the drones in the air.
Yeah, that's what he said. So it was 12 minutes long.
Yeah.
So
I really like the drone show. I just think that this location is not the best place to have it. We don't have enough room for parking and people. I think we need to look at doing that somewhere else that can be better taken advantage of. I don't know if we can add a second drone show, like the night before the fireworks. I think we'd get a lot of people to come show up to that. That drone show was amazing. It did feel short, but it also wasn't a lot of room for everybody here. The road was packed with cars and people parked at the church just trying to walk down to see that 12 minutes. So I think location
Yeah.
matters on that.
I think too, batteries, through the drones is a big issue. So, but they're supposedly replacing those, they said, with some that will last a little longer, but we're only talking about maybe, 18 to 20 minutes. So it's not a long show, but it's pretty cool the way they do it, but it's expensive. It's covered by a grant. That's fantastic. I know it might not go over as well if the public's feeling that they have to pay for something like that, but it's really it's pretty neat. It was a fun show.
There is parking there. I feel like people didn't want to come down. They probably felt like they're coming in at this time. There wasn't anywhere to park. And it would be good to have someone at that hour directing parking that you can come back, because the field was rather open, and that's where they're
Yeah.
parking a lot of cars.
I didn't realize there was anyone out there. I just thought that there weren't that many people there because the parking, there was a lot of parking in the field. That's where we were.
Well, it's doable. It just needs some direction, I think.
Have we considered hosting the arts festival at Country Park? Has the Arts Council considered that?
They talked about it, but they felt like it was a little bit big. They wanted it to be quainter experience. They also needed, if there's somebody that needs to set up equipment and the dancers needed a room to be in, they were looking at those factors. They weren't exactly sure where they would set up they could use the small stage, the portable stage that we have at the country park.
Right.
But I think that's why they wanted to do it here.
Yeah, we had, I mean, I think too, just your space coverage, with art and stuff, it's hard to hang that outside, not knowing maybe weather conditions or wind or.
That's true. They needed space for the gallery.
I
That's
think
right.
that was a big issue. And again, the community center would be fantastic to have her. That would be a great place to hold that event and have a lot more of that inside and control the weather too. But that's down the road probably just a little bit. But that's probably why Councilmember Moore says why we've probably done it here.
We'll have the new community center in Green Farms, if that's a possibility, when that comes online.
Not
wouldn't
for
be-
the art show.
Not for the art festival. There's nowhere to park and that many people. You got this outdoor, you have to have grass space, and
Yeah.
the HOA wouldn't approve it.
Okay. What else? Anything else that we need to recommend?
I think that's a really good start.
So what are the three we narrowed
Well-
it down to?
At the restrooms at Country Park, right?
Are we on arts and museum still?
Yeah, did you come up with 3 for arts and museums?
Oh, we didn't.
So we wanted to see if the announcer stand and audio would be covered underneath
Mhm.
that.
Yep.
We want to do evening of the art again, I assume.
I'm
The
sure
art festival.
Festival.
they would love
festival.
it. They'll use it. They had money for better advertising this year, and they just keep learning
Yeah.
to improve.
Well, I think the drone show will be a draw as well. So people saw it last year and think that that's really cool. Bring them out a little bit earlier. So, I mean, I think a lot of people see arts and they're like, I'm not really into. My husband wasn't, but with the drone show, I think that might be a draw to bring them in.
I agree with the idea of the drone show. I like that.
So that's 2. What's our third one going to be? We probably won't get the rodeo again. Is that what you said?
We
prior?
could,
We could.
yeah.
That might be the best. We get in one way or the other, we ask for the rodeo. Either, she finds out whether or not the new announcer stand. If not, then the adult and youth rodeo.
It's a big expense, for sure, and we do need it.
Especially where you don't charge them to come. That's really nice to get the grant, so you're
Right.
not just using budget money for,
Keep it a free event.
yeah.
Do we have budget money for the concert?
Yeah, I mean, it can be sponsored, and so can the rodeo, but those are some things that we've typically tried to get the grants for.
So if we can do, so probably the number one, then the art festival with the drone show, you have to list them, like 1, 2, and 3, and doesn't mean that they do them in that order. But then if we can get the announcer stand, then what do you want for your third one? Like if we can't get that, then I'm assuming then we do the concert and the rodeo. But if we do the announcer stand, do you want the rodeo before the concert?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to, is the announcer stand as important as getting some of the others? That's what I just want to make sure from the council is that I think it'll be great to do it that way, but it may not be a priority. So just look at that too as well, because you're looking at a lot of money for some of these things as well with the concert, for example, a lot
Well,
of
I
money.
think it would be cool to move the stand, but if we just had new AV, that would make a huge difference in just where it is, to me, you know. So it's not critical to move it, but would be amazing to
Yeah, the AV was,
make it work.
And that could even be an easy grant too then, because they're $2,000. I don't know how much a new AV system is. If you're not thinking of moving the whole thing, and those aren't due till March.
Well, maybe we'll just stick with what we got then. If everybody's okay with that. The stand,
I-
okay?
I like the announcer stand idea.
Okay. The rodeo, have that in there. The drone show and the restrooms at the country park.
Okay, the country park or Parks and Recs though.
Two different categories.
Yeah.
So
Did I throw that in there in the wrong category? My
yeah, that's
apologies.
okay. So we'll do the arts festival, we'll do the rodeo, if we can do the announcer stand with a new AV system, sound system. If not, then we'll do the concert, right, for the arts?
Correct.
And you want
I like it.
the announcer stand above the rodeo, like as you're ranking them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had your clown this year that couldn't even tell his jokes and communicate with the audience. That's half the rodeo. That was garbage.
Agreed.
And then just the sun in their eyes. Like, if you can move that announcer stand above the buck and shoots and actually set it up and have a real rodeo, I think that would be huge. I think that.
I like that. Yep.
But that's, again, one guy's opinion.
No, I agree with Councilmember Swaff on that. 100%.
What I heard is Councilmember Schwab wants to be the clown.
I am
That's what I
happy to
heard.
be the clown. I have experience. Let's
we
go.
hear that. All right.
Someone has to write my jokes, though.
Maybe that'll get you out of the stick horse race.
For sure. Done. Oh, Buttersticks is all yours this year.
Well, I'll try to find out.
That we know it.
Because if not, then I don't know if you want to use that for one of your parks and recs, you might, but again, we're maybe waiting to see what we need at Windsor to see if we need to, because if for sure you'd like to do new restrooms at Country Park.
That's
Then
a
we-
priority for me.
Oh, absolutely. After watching those little kids the other night have to go to the bathroom and it was a long line. Restrooms.
I know our playground equipment there is deteriorating as well.
Right.
But if that's an option, we may look at that. That's one thing I have on here
We
too.
put that in the budget. A new
We
playground.
put some in there, but I'm not sure what we ended up with.
We can try to find that out from the treasurer.
I like the restrooms at Country Park being priority one. I think that makes the most sense there. I
Yeah.
think the pavilion at Prevodel would be huge. I don't think we need an amphitheater just yet.
You know, I really haven't seen them do grants yet for amphitheaters. I think because they just haven't seen them used that much. I mean, I think this is a better location because you could maybe have some outdoor type things, but we maybe also, there's Utah Outdoor Recreation that we could apply for a grant for too, that maybe we could get an amphitheater. I know there's been a few other cities that have applied for amphitheaters and they haven't given them to them.
That recreation grant, when that was a January one too, wasn't it? Was it close in that?
Yeah, I think it
Area.
was surely about the same time, maybe even March.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's what we do is the amphitheater, we do the other, that other one instead.
The pavilion?
Pavilion.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the other grant for the amphitheater.
Other grant
Try for the other grant.
amphitheater.
I seem to really like that too, because then you can bring in having different speakers come in. It's right there along the river. I can see a lot
It's a
of,
great place
Yeah.
for it.
What was that grant?
Sure.
it's Utah Outdoor Recreation. Did you have a question, Nina?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, what other cities were denied a grant on amphitheaters?
I know Plain City had written one, and I'm almost thinking it was either Pleasant View or North Ogden or somebody that way too, and well, it's not necessarily that they're denied, it's just you have to do a grading system, and then you run out of money. And so everybody gives them a score, and then you start going down, and they start subtracting off money, and it was just one that didn't score high enough to get the money.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, and sometimes they would even try. I know, for instance, like Plain City had asked, and maybe they even asked you, but I know they had asked, like they had a letter of support in there from Hooper, but they're saying, is Hooper in all reality going to drive to Plain City to go to something? Maybe, maybe not. But there's really no one else that has something like you have at Prividale that I think you could draw people from other city if you had a naturist come and do something on bats or eagles or something that there's
Right.
nothing else around. And I think theirs were more, they thought for like music or entertainment.
Right.
It was a little bit different spin on it.
Well, I could see Hooper residents not driving to Plain City, but I could see them driving to West Haven because we're next door.
Me
And
too.
then Marriott Slaterville is like right there at Previdel, possibly Ogden as well. So, but Hooper to Plain City is quite the distance. So I could see why they would maybe deny that.
Okay. We got them? We got them kind of locked down for now?
Okay, and then by next time, we'll just, after you've met with Brock, and then you can try to kind of figure out on Major Grand, and maybe we'll see. Maybe there'll be more things we need at Windsor that might have to.
So are we saying restrooms at Country Park, pavilion at Previdel, and then waiting on the third one,
I would say wait just to see what
Windsor?
Windsor, and then look for, do the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant for the amphitheater.
Well, and I think too that we can start researching amphitheaters and find out all the cool things that we can do there, and so that we're psyched about it and we can be excited.
So let's plan on that, and let's just leave it as a discussion today, if that's okay, and then we can maybe vote on that the next round, if that's okay with the council.
But we need to vote on the 5 that we just decided so she can actually write them.
Well, or you want to start writing them right now? Because we still got
She would like
information.
to.
the five
That was
got.
that was a yes.
You might be busy.
In
when she
body
becomes-
language, that was a
Start
yes.
writing.
Well, so that was the whole intent, of this July staff report, was because we didn't want to wait until Thanksgiving, because then we get 2 more weeks and we're almost to Thanksgiving, and then we're Christmas. So, but even if you just did an action tonight for like 2 that have to do with arts and museums, which I think you could, because we've kind of narrowed down 2 of those. And even if you did 2 for Parks and Recs, because I think you've narrowed down 2 of those, and then we just need to wait and see on the bucking shoots, because if not, then we'll do the, the third one, which was going to be the concert. And then if we don't need anything for Windsor, then you need to come up with another one, either add on to the playground at Country Park, or
Yeah, so you could vote on 4. And give her direction.
you could
then
vote
she
on
can start.
4.
Okay, so let's get,
I don't think you can do that to a motion,
Oh, is that? Oh, dang.
but we could try.
I would make a motion that we move forward and have Sherry work on the grants for the art festival, the rodeo announcer stand, the large pavilion at Previdel, and the new restrooms at the Country Park.
Second.
We can't do the announcer stand yet till we find out if that qualifies. So I think it was actually the art
Rodeo?
festival, the rodeo.
Yeah, okay.
And she'll research the
Yeah.
announcer stand.
Got it.
okay. So we got that all down? We got a second?
We had 2.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay,
There you
thank
go.
you. Thank you.
We'll get with the others and get those taken care of as soon as we can on those. All right, we'll move on to item 12, action on resolution 39-2023, Sunset Farms reimbursement and license agreement.
So what is going on with this is that our last city manager sat down with the developer and our engineer, and we're discussing how to, they negotiated regarding upgrades to our system, our master system with the stormwater, and they discussed the terms of the agreement that are attached, and that is what staff is bringing to you today to look at approving. And I think Ed is the best to talk about what those upgrades are and why we feel that we need those.
Yeah, come on up. Excellent.
Ken Milne and Tyler Peterson, who happens to be here this evening, came to the city requesting a subdivision called Sunset Farms on 2700 West, 10-lot subdivision. And it's a challenging property in general to develop because of its slope and the high groundwater table and the poor soils, so it was a challenge for stormwater management also. And in the course of us reviewing the project with them, we came to a initial understanding that we might be able to work with them to help their project along, but also help the city implement which is one of our major stormwater master plan projects, which is to redirect most of the drainage that's on the east side of 2700 West through their site, and then through a siphon that's under the Layton Canal and discharge to the wetlands in Country Park, which is considered part of our regional stormwater management. So to do that, it required some extra piping to be installed to address the city's needs, and also to have them upsize piping through their project to accommodate the extra flow that we're asking them to do. We thought that it was a very good project and helps us achieve some of our master plan goals in terms of stormwater management. It's, we believe, obviously a very fair agreement with them in terms of what the cost would be compared to if we had to undertake this project by ourselves. And it would be much more difficult because we would have to require some easement rights or some property and things like that. So the city actually made the application to the Borough of Reclamation for a license agreement so we can add this extra flow to the existing siphon, which we got approved. So we're asking the council to consider two parts of this tonight. One is to approve the agreement with, reimbursement agreement with Sunset Farms, which the agreement was attached with a staff report, but in essence, it's about 500 feet of new pipe that we're requiring to the city side of the project, and about 1,100 feet of pipe that we asked them to upsize to accommodate us. And right now, based on the original cost estimates, we're thinking the city shares about $141,000, which we believe can be paid for through our stormwater impact fees. And the second part would be to enter into the license agreement with the Borough of Reclamation to allow us to add the flow to the siphon. And this is very similar to two license agreements the councils have already approved. One was for the pedestrian bridge,
Right.
3,500, and similar to what we entered into with them for expanding the Havenwood entrance to encroach within the canal right-of-way there. So, so I think, staff recommends that the council approve this agreement and enter into the license agreement.
Can you explain to us common folk what the siphon does and how it works and the point of it?
I'm sorry?
Can you explain the siphon to us, please?
It's a way to convey flows under typically it's a canal or a culvert or something, and it works on negative pressure because it can't flow over. So it creates almost like a vacuum, and the flow goes under, and then it's able to come out on the other side based on the differential in the pressure head.
So it's still an enclosed drain, but it's creating a
Yes,
siphon to ensure
correct.
that
It's
it
called a
gets
siphon
back.
because it's like a siphon you would like take gas out. It works very similar to that kind of on that principle.
Okay.
We actually have quite a few of them that are throughout the city because we do have some of these needed stormwater crossings under canals and things like that. You may recall also we actually had an issue with a siphon under the Hooper Canal that we addressed because there was some conflicts with one of our storm drains. So that was a project that the council addressed a year or so ago also.
So it did talk in the staff report about the increase from a 12-inch pipe to a 15
Yes.
in there, but on the city side over there, when you get back to the cost estimates for the city side, it has a 24-inch pipe.
Correct. I must have mistyped. It's a 24-inch pipe across 2,700 that we're extending to the site, and then asking them to increase from 15 to 24.
So on their property,
Correct.
it's an
It'd
increase
still
of
be 24.
15.
It would have been 15 without
Our-
without our extra flow coming to it. So we asked them to increase their pipe from 15 to 24 inch.
Okay. I was trying, maybe you could help me understand too, in the recitals, under the reimbursement agreement, in section B of the recitals, it says in connection with the development of the developer property as a residential subdivision, and then it says project. I'm not sure, that just didn't make sense to me. Is that something you could help me understand? What is that supposed to mean exactly?
So so the developer is developing this project, this subdivision, and in connection with this subdivision is what we're looking at upsizing. I mean, I'm trying to decide exactly the best way to, because if you look at A, developer is the owner and/or developer, well, he is the developer of real property, described as on Exhibit A, which that's the subdivision
Right?
plat, and then in connection with development of that, and then you have as a condition of approval for the construction activities within the project, the developer is willing to construct and install the extra infrastructure. It's legalese, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's essentially our projects in conjunction with their project. I think that's.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's
Really
right.
what-
That's probably the best. Thank you,
what it
Ed.
means.
That's the best.
Okay, in the recitals in A, if we could just maybe change that where it says a certain real property is located in Weber County, it's just missing that one right there too. You see A in the recitals there?
I'm not quite understanding.
So the
what-
first line in there says developer is the owner and or developer of certain real property located Weber County.
Oh, so you
should
want to
just say-
within?
Well, I would think that located in Weber County might sound good.
Well, okay. It's funny because, and I'm sure Ed's like this too, that we read these sort of things like all the time and we miss sometimes the prepositions.
Well, I'm just reading along going, whoop, that seems like we missed something there, but that's all. That's really all I had. Any questions? Do you have any questions, council?
I don't.
Okay. All right, well, if there's no other,
Want to make any comments, Tyler? You okay? No, unless you want to. I just want to give the opportunity if you want to.
okay, ready for a motion on this?
Can I ask one more quick question?
Sure.
Mayor, sorry for the delay there.
No problem?
So this is to convey storm drain water from the east side of 2700.
Correct.
What's
Through-
over there and where is it currently
It's,
going?
I should have showed you the map. I can send you the map. It's a fairly large drainage area that collects, that runs to that pipe, and just coincidentally, it just discharges directly across from this site where the flow heads north. And there's some concerns by Cole and Scott about future capacity of those lines, so they'd always had wanted to try to lessen the burden on some of that other infrastructure and redirect this flow elsewhere. So by creating this path through, it's going, again, through their site and then open discharge to the wetlands, and it's freeing up capacity in the rest of the system.
So it's already a currently piped area system over there.
Correct.
We're
The
just
flow would
rerouting
come to the flow west. When it hits the east side of 2700, it makes a turn north. We're saying we're just going to continue it going to the west through their property, and then there's a little bit of a turn that connects it to the siphon, and then that discharges to the wetlands in the country park.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, We're ready for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 39-2023 Sunset Farms Reimbursement and License Agreement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item from the council? We'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Call,
Aye.
Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
and Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you for that. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate that very much for the information. Move on to item 13. This is a presentation for the third quarter city manager audit report.
Based upon our city code, the city manager is required to do a audit every quarter. And I was instructed last meeting to have it be with amounts between $10,000 and $50,000. And so here are all of the between $10,000 and $50,000 things that were paid out. You know, some purchases, some contracts, like Waste Management, of course, is contracted, the Weber County Transfer Station contract, City Manager Services contract. And then, like with the flock safety cameras, Weber County Animal Services. I know that the mayor had question about the baseball, that $12,790 for the baseball. I believe Brock still feels this is a good promotional, good way to bring people into our baseball program is these type of programs. But that's, you know, something that if the council wants to look at, we can certainly look at. But that was.
So, I mean, you probably don't know this, but what kind of support do they bring to us? What do we get for our money? Just the fact that we can use their name, or?
I think Emily might know a little bit better because she's talked to Brock about it more.
If I remember correctly, it's tickets, jerseys at like a reduced price. So there's like a couple of fun things that the kids get with the program.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's for them to go to the game.
The game, the Salt Lake
Yeah.
Beast game.
And I just felt like that was a lot of money to pay out for some of that. We have that with the junior jazz as well, and we have the bees. So I just thought it was a lot of money for some of those things that we're giving away in our recreation program, and not much reimbursement maybe coming back on that. But that's something the council could look at. Definitely. I just thought I'd throw that out there it's always been a little bit of a concern of mine that we're spending that much money. I think it's $15,000 for junior jazz and 12 something, wasn't it, for the bees? 13, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just something I wanted to have them check on to get back with us on what that exactly was for. But I think that's what it is going to the games and so forth.
I didn't know if the council had any other questions. I would make a suggestion that if these are definitely the amounts that you want as the quarterly audit, that I just prepare an amendment to our section of the code that just adds that clarifying language in it. It's really not that big of a deal. We have to have a public hearing, but have the public hearing and just have that clarification in our code.
I think that's a good idea. I think we should match what we're saying in our code, so.
Does everybody else feel that way too?
Great idea.
Okay. That, unless you have any questions,
Okay.
there you go.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much for that and your work in that. We'll move to item 14. This is our executive session. The council will enter into a closed meeting for the purpose of strategy session to discuss the character and professional competence of an individual to be held in accordance with the provisions of Utah Code 52-4-205. And just wanted to make sure that the public's aware we have had a lot of executive sessions this year, but we do it in the same version, just like anytime we're having discussions about individuals or purchase of property or anything of that nature. Those are things that we want to just be very careful of how we go about talking and having those. So I'll have, what's that? Yeah, and any of those type of things as well. So on overall, we just need to make sure that when we go into this session, we'll need a motion to move from our public meeting into the executive session.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move into our executive session now. thank you for those that attended. Okay, we'll get started back with, we're back from our executive session. We had an executive session. The council entered into a closed meeting for the purpose of strategy session to discuss the character and professional competence of an individual to be held in accordance with the provisions of Utah Code 52-4-205. And we got things accomplished that we needed to, and we'll move back into public meeting from our executive session. I need a motion.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're back in our regular session. We'll move forward with item 15 is discussion and possible action on economic development request for proposal.
So one of the things that the co-interim city managers are suggesting is the possibility of doing an RFP for economic development consulting services. Because this wasn't done when the packets went out, you haven't seen it, but I would suggest that maybe we discuss this, table this and discuss it at the next meeting, and then immediately adjourn.
So moved.
Well, hang on,
Oh, come
hang on.
Anyway,
So with this proposal on here, so was there anything else? I mean, just looking at it real quick.
this
there
is the
anything
one
else?
that you guys sent out in 2019 that I tweaked. And so, like, I added stuff. If you look under scope of work, I think that something that's incredibly important is preparing an economic development plan for 21st Street, Midland Drive, and 4000 South. We may want to add something else as to the possibility of what we would like to see the economic, an economic development consultant do. I mean, actually have some focus, because that wasn't in the last one. And I mean, to be fair, I do get lost if I don't have my GPS, but I do know that these three specific ones are where our main economic development really needs to be, but there may be another street that you want to list on there too to have them look at. And that's, like I said, that there was, or even having, and I added this too, the consultant is to cite to any economic development tools and processes that would be available for these areas, including community development areas. And there's a new PID, public improvement development, or district, that's what it is, public improvement district, that is a big deal right now. And it's basically having the developers set up a type of taxing district so that the people who move in, or the commercial that comes in, whatever, they're the ones who are paying for that development. That tax is on those particular pieces of property.
Wow.
But those sort of things about them citing to these economic development tools, that wasn't in the 2019 draft. And so there's things that I think are important to put in there, to have them specifically look at. It also had, I think that, well, the draft that I had seen, because I found this in Ken's stuff, and because he drafted it the first time in 2019, about whether or not there was a cap. It was like 20,000 possibly in 2019. So I don't know whether or not we want to put a cap, or whether or not we just want to list, here's the scope of work. Tell us what it's going to cost to get us there. I mean, these are the things that I wanted you guys to look at, and I apologize for not getting it to you.
Well, that's good. I think it's good that I think we should have a chance to review it and make sure, because this is going to be somebody we're going to be bringing on for these developments, and I think we need to kind of focus on that direction to see where we're at. So, if we could,
But this is planned to be for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
You're gonna have these for however many months.
Well, and actually that, it depends on how you want to, you know, do it. Do you want to, you can either like say, look, this is the amount of money we want to use, $50,000, $60,000. And we want you to put in there as to how long you think it'll take, you know, this is how much money we want to spend. Or whether or not you want to just leave it open-ended and say, all right, we're putting it out there. These are our goals. Tell us how much it's going to cost and how long it will take.
I'd like to look it over a little more, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I just
Yeah,
asked a question.
So let's look for a motion maybe to table until next time.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll do that. Item 16 is adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. 8:04. That's not too bad.
4 minutes. Dang it. I'm sorry.